In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a simple commentary platform. We're going to use React, React Apollo. We're going to implement queries and mutations. My name is Maxim and I make programming tutorials to make it easier for you to learn JavaScript, React and other technologies. So if it sounds interesting for you, then subscribe, press like button and let's go. Here is what we're going to build. It will be a simple blog post, like blog posting platform, and we can comment. I'll write my name and some comment. Hello, first comment. It will be added to comment list. I can add some other text, another comment, and add it as well. If I will reload the page, the comments will still be there because we store them on our GraphQL server. And actually, let's start by building one. Let's begin by creating a new folder for our server. Make dir server. Switch to this folder and init new npm package. npm init y. Now let's install the dependencies. We will use Apollo server and GraphQL. Yarn add Apollo server and GraphQL. Now open this folder in your favorite code editor and create a new file. We will call it index.js. Inside of this file, initialize two constants. Apollo server and GQL. Apollo server is basically a GraphQL server and GQL is a function to parse GraphQL queries. We will import both of them, require from Apollo server. In this example, we are not going to use any database. We are going to store our data in memory. So we just create a new constant called posts. It will be an array of objects. Each object, each post will contain title. And our first post will contain title my first post. It will contain text. Hello, I'm what? Post text. And it will contain list of comments. For now it will be an empty array. Now we need to define types for our GraphQL server. For us, it will be basic types like posts and comments. Also we will define query and mutation types, but it will be a little bit later. Let's start by creating a constant type defs. It will be a GQL call with a template string. And let's begin by defining type query. It will allow us to get posts. And posts is array of posts, of objects of type post. Now let's define type post itself. Type post contains title, string, it contains text, also string, and it contains comments, which is an array of objects of type comment. Now let's define comments. Comments will also be a type comment. It will contain author, string, and text, also string. There are other types, but for our needs we only need strings. Now we'll also comment our posts, so let's also create a mutation. Type mutation. We will call it add comment. It has function like signature. It will accept author, which will be a string, and text, which will also be a string. And it will return comment. For now we're done with types. Let's go to create some resolvers. If types is a way to tell GraphQL what kinds of data are you going to operate, then resolvers is a way to retrieve this data. So let's write some resolvers now. Const resolvers equals new object literal. First resolver will be for query. And we have query called posts. It will be just a function that will return our posts object, which is an array that we defined in the top of our file. Here it is. Now let's define our mutation. Mutation. We have one mutation, it's called add comment. Let's define it. It will be a function that gets root and args and returns. It should return new comment, but first let's create it. Const new comment equals author equals args author and text is args text. Now we take this new comment and push it to the array of comments of our post. Post. We have only one post, we're not going to create new ones, so we can take posts, 0, comments, push, new comment. And now we can return our new comment. Return new comment. Now we have type definitions and resolvers, so let's define our server. Const server equals Apollo server, and it will get a configuration object with type defs and resolvers. And don't forget to put new before Apollo server. To launch our server, run server, listen. It will return a promise, so called then, and inside of this then block, define a function that will accept a URL. So we can say console log server is running on URL. And it should be it. We can now launch our server. To launch our server, go to console and run node index.js. You should have it running now. Now if you go to localhost 4000, you will be able to play around with your queries. I've already created 2 of them, get posts and add comment. It's basically the same queries as we were defining them in type definitions. We defined posts. I'm just using nested syntax to specify fields of all the objects here, from posts to comments. So I know that posts contain comments objects and that comments contain author and text. I want to get all the fields. At this point I have 0 comments for my blog post. Let's try to add some. Let's say it will be ping and author will be pong. Let's run this query. Add comment. After we add named mutations or queries, they will pop up in this pop-up. Let's run posts again. And now you can see that our comments contain newly created comment. Now we know that our server works properly and we can start writing our client. Let's begin by creating a new create React app. npx create React app client. Now let's install required dependencies. Yarn add GraphQL, Apollo React hooks, and Apollo boost. Now open file app.js and remove everything that we are not gonna use. All the layout and imports. And now let's add some GraphQL imports. We will need useQuery hook from Apollo React hooks. Use query from Apollo React hooks. We also need to define a query, so import GQL, import GQL from Apollo boost. Now let's define our get posts query. Const get posts equals GQL template string And now we define named query, query get posts. It will contain posts with title, text, comments that will contain author and text. Now inside of our app component, we can start using our hook. It will return 3 constants: loading, error, and data. And it's called use query. And we pass our get posts query there. Now we need to add some guard clauses. If loading, then we return loading. If error, then we return error and error message. Otherwise, we will return our layout. Let's start by creating a new fragment. And inside of it, we will loop through all the posts. Yeah, in this example, it will be just one post, but we have basically an array, so it could be more than one. Posts, data, posts, map, post, and then we need to create post layout. I'm going to use fragment again to wrap on my post layout. It will have header with post title and paragraph with post text. And we need to say return. Now under my post title and text, we can start rendering our comments. So we say data. No, we say post comments map comment, and inside of it we'll render paragraph with strong comment author as a value. And again, I forgot to say return and comment text. At this point, you still won't be able to launch your application, because first we need to initialize and provide our client. Import Apollo client from Apollo Boost, and import Apollo provider from Apollo React hooks. Now let's define our client. Const client equals new Apollo client, and we need to pass URL of our server. In our case, it's HTTP localhost 4000. Now we need to wrap our application into provider. Apollo provider and closing tag, and we need to pass client to Apollo provider. Client equals client. URL should be URI though. If you now open your browser, you will see this thing. It is your post, some text, and our first comment that we created when we were testing our server. Now let's add mutation support and form to create new comments to our client. Create new component called add comment JS, import React, import use mutation hook from Apollo React hooks, and import GQL from Apollo Boost. Now let's define our mutation query. Mutation const add comment with 2 n's equals GQL new query. Here we define our mutation called add comment that will get author, string, and text, also string. And it will perform our mutation that we defined in our backend. Add comment, and it will pass author as author and text as text. And as a result, we want to get author and text. Now we can define and export our component. Export const add comment from capital A equals new function, and we can already define handlers for our use mutation hook. Add comment and data equals use mutation, and we pass our query add comment to use mutation hook. Now let's return some layout. I will go the short path and just create a form, so I don't want to handle controlled inputs. I will just let the DOM do it for me. So I define a form with input of type text and name author, and I define text area, type text and name text. Now I will add placeholders. It will be author and text, and I will wrap both inputs into divs. Now I can add a button that will say add comment and create onSubmit handler for our form. Now let's define this handler. Const onSubmit. It will accept an event. We'll call prevent default, not placeholder. Prevent default, so we won't reload the page. Now we can call add comment, but we need the data to pass to it. So we will do the following. We'll create new constants. It will be, what are our names? Text and author. Author text equals event target elements. Now we can make a guard clause. If there is no author value or no text value, then return. Otherwise, we will call our add comment function with options. And as options, we need to pass at least one key, variables. Because in our case, we need to pass author and text. Variables where author will be author value and text will be text value. Now let's get back to our app.js and add our add comment component. Now we can open our browser. You should see the inputs. Let's say something, and try adding the comment. As you can see, nothing have changed. But if we reload the page, the comment got added. This is due to the fact that Apollo has no way to tell if you just send something to the server. You need to either get the data, that it returns to you when you perform the mutation. Or create a subscription, which we will discuss in one of the next lessons. So subscribe to the channel and you will see how to use subscription in GraphQL. Or, and this is what we're going to do now, you can refetch the related queries. So we go to our add comment call, and after the variables option, we add refetch queries, where we pass an array of objects with field query, and we need to pass query get posts, but we can't use it because it's not exported. Let's go to our app.js and export it. Go back to add comments and import it from app. Now it should refetch the get post query. If you go back to the app and say something, ++, minus, and as you can see, now it refetches, refetch Mr. Hey, add comment. I don't like that we are importing get post query from app. Let's create a new file called queries.js, and we will actually take our get post query and put it there. Take our add comment query and put it there as well. Now we'll need to take GraphQL and put it in the beginning of the file. Now inside of our app.js we import get posts query from queries, and inside of our add comments query we import get posts and add comment query. Now it's much cleaner. At this point you should have fully functional commenting platform, of course basic one. So if you like this video, press like button, subscribe to the channel to see more videos like this one, and I already have a bunch of tutorials, so you can check them out here on the left side. And see you next time.